there's a recognition like, well, that's somehow been in me forever. And we get this idea that we've had many lifetimes and all that. And that may or may not be true. It doesn't matter. The point is that we're connected in our consciousness to all information from all time. That time and space have no relevance when you get to that level of communion. Okay, so a big part of getting to talk about the spiritual mind, communion is the essential ingredient. There has to be a communion with this, your alertness. So all of this, I love that the word is touching our heart, all of this brings us to the heart, because the spiritual mind is our heart. Okay? So we have this communion through our heart. And it's so beautiful. There's a fellow in our Course in Miracles group that was sharing a while back, Ryland, about his sister who's a fundamentalist Christian, and about how difficult and possible really it is for him to relate with her, because she loves the Bible in its literal translation. He loves the Course in Miracles in its literal translation. And so they're stuck. And we were sharing once in the circle, and it came through me to say to Ryland, consider the possibility that if you look close enough, that the Course in Miracles and the Bible are saying exactly the same thing. They're coming out of the same loving presence that walked this earth, and it walks in all of us. So I love movies so much, and American Beauty is one of my very favorite movies. In the beginning of the film, when his narration is telling the general story of what's going to come, but we see him in his cubicle, and if anybody remember the scene, there's a little thing in his cubicle that says, "Look closer." And that's the whole essence of the movie. Right there is a little wall, look closer. And what he realizes by the end of the movie is that he wanted to, all along, get to that place where he just remembered the beauty. That that's all that there ever really was. And that's always what's happening. There's only beauty happening every moment. We just have to develop the ability to see. And it means looking closer. Look what's really happening right now in every request. Anytime a human being is approaching you, they're coming with one thing. It's a simple request. We all carry that request. We simply want to feel God's presence. And so if we recognize that, we're not going to go into reaction and go, I don't like what you're offering me, I don't like what you're saying, I don't like what you're doing. And if it takes a little while, again, the idea is to remember, even if we have a reaction, like Eckhart would say, freedom from the world is learning to love everything in it, which would mean even our reactions. If in a moment we slip, that ends up being a retrieval process, right? Because we need to go back and pick something that we've left out and bring it and end up thanking the person that sends us into reaction. Because again, if we wholeheartedly accept that's our function, is to clean up our mess and then get along with everybody. Not get along like pretend, but really, under that kindergarten book years ago, I learned in kindergarten, it was like, clean up your mess and play nice in the playground and all that.
And the big book is clean house, trust God, help others.
There you go. What a simple. The spiritual path is very simple.
Yeah,
it is. It's only us that we make it so complicated.
I think it's really interesting, the egoistic tendency to polarize. I decided to come here today because in a couple of days I'm picking up my father from the airport, and he is so the tribal mind. He's a right-wing evangelical, promise keeper, NRA, SUV driving, W Scotsman. And when I go visit him, I drive in his SUV that has the W and the NRA sticker, and I'm picking him up with my yoga license plate and my co-op sticker and my goddess sticker. And I just feel like so many times during our being here together, I felt that what I'm wanting to take with me in every encounter, so we'll be staying together for several days, is that we're not polarized, that this is just different ways of calling for love, or asking for the spiritual mind, asking for synergy. We just happen to have some glaringly, seemingly polarized qualities, but that synergy has enabled me to grow far in my own process. So in many ways, I have so much to love and be grateful for. But when I'm with him, I can often go right into a bend, attack, dynamism. You know, it feels like brain chemistry, you know, that I just go automatically into a martial stance. And I just so don't want to do that. So to hear you say about even our slips, our retrieval, is helping me to soften.
Right. There's a great line, of course, that usually can apply to our relationships with our parents. That says the holiest of all spots on earth is a place where ancient hatred
has become a present love. I know, that's
so if you can do that with your dad, just recognize the holy moment that you can have, even if he can't possibly get it. It's not the point. It says that you can get it for the two of you. And
he often gets it, and it's the most exquisite, sublime thing, because he'll go and vote, you know, Republican afterwards, and it's okay. Like, that's why I asked about the planet. I mean, he totally believes that the Marines and all of their ballistics are aligned with Jesus Christ and the coming of heaven. And I don't, but, you know, it's all good. We both just have a different way of getting to heaven.
But we're all walking the same path.
Right?
Yeah.
That's so good.
It just looks
Pretty
different,
far
but it
out.
really isn't.
Yeah, I was just watching a little film on Churchill, and I don't know much about Churchill, but I've always been a big fan of Gandhi. But it's so interesting to see Churchill going on and on about this little bastard Gandhi, and you know, here are these two great beings in their own way, but one's a warmonger and the other is a peacemonger, and yet they both really moved our culture, our world forward, and they all do. Stephen Levine, who really made a big impression on me years ago, he wrote a book called Who Dies that I think is an incredible book. But he used to tell this story in his workshops, and I'd like to share it. And I think he can help us with these individuals who are our version of Hitler. But in the story, he says that every 100 years, there's a big conference in heaven before the souls would incarnate for that century. And everybody's there, and everybody's getting ready to get their assignment. And they go through all the really popular ones first, like Mother Teresa. You know, a bunch of people, thousands are vying for that spot. And, you know, all the really, and then the very easy ones, the nice ones, and the invisible ones, and those are all easy. And of course, finally, who's the last one to be assigned? Adolf Hitler. Nobody raises their hand.
So Mother Teresa raising her hand.
That'd be a good ending of the story.
I'll do it.
But anyway, in this story, finally, out of the silence, one little weak person in the back, the little soul says, "I'll do it." And the whole place stands up and gives that being a thundering ovation.